Welcome to Simply Sarah. I'm Sarah Stock. I'm your host, and I am delighted that you are carving out time for this incredible conversation. We want to say thank you to our sponsors, to Michelle Bell Art on Instagram, to the incredible Stegner family, to the amazing artofforgiving.com for all of their support, and also for our guest today, Adri Loughmiller. We are thrilled to have you here. We would love for you to share your story, Audrey, of how you got to this point of becoming a #1 best-selling author on Amazon. Would love for you to share your story, please.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me. Absolutely. I'm so thrilled to be a part of that book, the Overcoming You book. It's definitely been a long journey to get there. My story starts in Hungary. So I was born and raised in Hungary. And as a finishing student at college, last year of my college, I actually came to the States for an internship. So I was 22 years old, and I came to the Broadmoor here in Colorado Springs to do my internship. My degree is hospitality and tourism is my major, so I needed an internship, and there was this beautiful program I've heard about. Others have done before me, so I opted in. I really needed to improve my English because that's also a part of our degree requirements to have two language exams in foreign languages with our degree, and English was one of them for me. So that was the main goal as to why I came. And of course, the Broadmoor being the one of the nicest hotels in the entire world. What
Yes.
better training you could get, right? So
It's a remarkable place. And the way that you drive to get in there, the incredible, for me, the time that I was there, the wildlife that was there, just such a remarkable experience. And I don't think there's a season that you can go where you're not wowed just by the building itself, but by also the nature that's around it and how the groundkeepers take care of the grounds. I was just so transported into another space, just even driving onto the property outside of Colorado Springs. What a remarkable experience to apply for this and then to get to come and to be here. Did they provide housing for you as well as part of this internship?
yes, there are different options, and I agree with everything you said. The Broadmoor is just a different world, and for me, it's just very European. So it
Mhm.
brings, Europe here a little bit. And one of their signature things, what they do is to have international students from all over the world. So they actually go and recruit students who's so the colleges have to be either hospitality based or culinary or something that has to do with a hotel or events, of course, what the Broadmoor offers. But they recruit students from all over the world. And, that was the program I applied for. And my program was, wow, 22 years ago. I had to think about it. And, I can speak for the details back then, but we did get housing for the first month so that we could figure out our own. And some people would, rent a home or apartment. Students would group up. It was really nice to kind of come into an already existing student community because people were here on different visas. Ours at the time was for a year and a half. So you really got settled here for a year at least, and then you could choose whether you extend for another 6 months or not. So there were already people here from our own country,
Ah,
for me, Hungary, but then we had a community of Polish students, Hungarians, Croatians, and all over the world. And so you had great advice from them. So you didn't just come into you fly across the ocean and you have no idea what to do. So that was really
yes.
helpful.
It is so helpful to have people who are already in the program or who are in exactly the same place where you are, brand new, figuring it all out, and also going through that jet lag experience, right? Because you were on a very, very different time zone than what you were at home in Hungary. So tell me about the experience then of actually being there and working at the Broadmoor.
The experience has been amazing. I have to say that I've already worked at beautiful places back in Europe, prior to that time. So I've seen places, I've worked with different businesses, catering services, beautiful hotels, and other establishments. But the Broadmoor is still like just something else. It's one of a kind. And I just really love the culture there with all of the international, feel and the European flair and the people who go there. I just find that, you will find people from all walks of life, and it was just a beautiful experience. But of course, it's been overwhelming how you just move away from your home country. And then I no longer do this, but you know how you hear the stereotypes at first that America is like that, the United States is like that, people are like that. I just like that's the biggest thing I'm staying away from these days, because yes, there are stereotypes, but everybody is different. Everybody has their own ways. So that's the first thing I learned, that you just kind of have to go out there and meet people. And I've just always had a great experience with the training and how they were teaching us. I just really think that in the hospitality business, you cannot get better training, especially in customer service, than the Broadmoor. So that's with me today, of course.
So you are still living in Colorado Springs. So what allowed you or what encouraged you to stay in America?
Well, that is a great question, of course. So, of course, I've been doing my internship, and then at the Broadmoor, I met someone who then later became my husband. So, the story took a huge turn at the time, but not only for that, but he was a young soldier, so fresh out of basic training in the military in the U.S. Army. And, this was the time right after September 11th. So I came in May of 2002, right after those tragic happenings. And then it was the time when, the US military was just getting ready to go to war. And so at the time, I met Clint. We were best friends, and he also just helped out at the Broadmoor because he was in the Army Reserves at the time. So it was just by fate that we met. We became best friends. But shortly after, he started saying that, okay, he's going to be full time Army now and he's going to war. And before he was leaving for his first deployment, he proposed. So I got that question and I said yes, of course. And naively, I had no idea about how any of this would work as far as him going to war. I'm still here. I naively told him, like, okay, if you don't get back while I'm still here for my internship, like you can just come to Hungary and we get married and all those things. And then, of course, like his superiors and the military had much better plans and advised us differently. And so before I knew it, I actually became a military wife. And then he started on these deployments, twice to Iraq, then following shortly after that, once to Afghanistan. And during this time, I was just building my career at the Broadmoor. So, of course, then it ran into the time that my internship was up. And then I just got opportunities at the hotel. At first, I was working in restaurants, banquets, food and beverage establishments mainly, but then I always had a passion for event planning. So after a while, about 4 years in, I was able to get into the conferences department and I was able to start doing events, which has always been my goal in my career. Definitely not to do that in the US, but at this point, then I was here in Colorado Springs still. So I was just building my career, and my husband was doing his job, being deployed several times.
How did you handle the aloneness of him being away? I grew up overseas. My parents worked in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and there would be periods of time that my father would be traveling. And there is just such a different sense in the house when not everybody is there. How did you handle that, even newly married?
Yes, that definitely has been hard. However, I was so blessed because that student community has still been here. I want to say it still is here. I don't know those many people anymore. It's been
Mhm.
like a couple of decades now, but I stayed connected in with the community. And I also had a really nice and supportive community around me, just with the non-student, but regular, employees and people who I made friends with at the Broadmoor, outside of the Broadmoor, even, through military families. So I was just really busy and I was so focused and driven on the career piece at the time that I was always just focused like go, go, go. And then when my husband was at home, then we focused on traveling. He came to Hungary a couple of times, at least, if not more. And then I had this big wish. Of course, I wanted a nice wedding in Hungary, which then a year and a half later, then we were able to organize for between a couple of deployments. And also my family came a few times. So there was a lot of back and forth and lots of movement, busy times, but definitely hard to be away from your core group of people and family.
Definitely, definitely. Tell us more of the story then. So you are still working at the Broadmoor. He's being deployed. What happens after that?
Yes, at this point, we've been married for about 9 years, um, 8, 9 years. And then, so my husband's career had a turn. So he
Mhm.
actually finally was able to. This is our puppy Luke here, who just
Hi, Luke. We're so happy to have you join us.
is rearranging.
He is. It's good.
So anyway, so my husband's career was about to change, and we moved to Fort Bragg, North Carolina at
Mhm.
the time, where he started the qualification course for special forces. His big dream has always been to get his own Green Beret and had that have that assignment. He has been deployed alongside of 10th Special Forces Group to
Mhm.
Iraq a couple of times, but this was his big dream that he always wanted to follow. And of course, I had a choice whether I go with him and we move together to North
Right.
Carolina,
Yeah.
or I stay behind and still keep working at the Broadmoor. And then the course is projected to be about a year and a half to 2 years long. And
Okay.
so we could have then stayed separated and then just him moving. But long story short, I decided to move with him because at least he was stateside. And then I was thinking, okay, I will find a nice hotel there and I can just come back to the Broadmoor, hopefully, because we had high hopes of him being assigned with 10 Special Forces Group here. Of course, there are no guarantees in the Army.
Right.
That was the plan. So we moved over there, and shortly after that, I got pregnant, which wasn't
Mhm.
planned at all. I feel like that was just an out of nowhere. Again, naively, I was hoping that we'll just start a family once my husband is done with the military, which again was just like a very silly thought process because probably I would have been like much older if I followed that. Long story short, I just got pregnant, and so it just happened during the time while my husband was in the course. That course is very busy, very high profile. It has a language portion, it has portions out on the field. So I was basically just, I ended up not finding a nice hotel there because since I was pregnant, it was almost good timing for just taking care of that. But then everything took a tragic turn after our baby was born. So our baby was born. My husband was still he was able to spend 10 days with the baby because he happened to be in a part of the course where he was at home. But then after that, he left for a portion of the course that was on the field for 3 months. So he spent about 10 days with us and then went to this field training, came back when the baby was 4 months old. And a few years after that, on the eve of my first Mother's Day, my husband just from one day to the next, no signs or whatsoever, but he tragically died by suicide.
And you were the one in the house. You heard the shot. You were the one to make the phone calls, to get help, to do all of those things. I have watched the military, having been overseas, be such a supportive family group. Tell us a little bit about how that structure surrounded you and or your Hungarian family through this incredible, shocking tragedy.
Yes, I definitely had a support system that came around us, even though Fort Bragg, North Carolina was not where I had the biggest support. Of course, we had that in Colorado. But I have to say that, some of this is still a blur. And just now I'm connecting back with some of the people who have been there or who have helped during that time. But I just know that I made a couple of phone calls. There was only one couple who we knew in Fort Bragg from our former Colorado Springs, community, also a military couple. This was a very divine thing because we knew that couple the entire time. Husband was deployed with my friend's husband, and so she actually also used to be a student, an international student. So they were the only people I could name to be called. And I want to say that the military and everybody who got there just like in a matter of minutes, they called them because we actually talked with this friend. How did you get there? And she said, well, you must have given somebody our number because they called us and they came. And so basically, they took care of us for a couple of days, me and the baby. And I just know that then my husband's family came from various places because some of his family actually lived in Hawaii. His brother was studying in New York at the time. His dad was here in Colorado Springs. So I just have to tell you that some people worked, magic because people just showed up and everybody was there and there was help. I was in this big shock, just, from denial to just numb and what's even happening. And so, even thinking back, I'm just so grateful that these people came around us and also the military. This has been an active duty death. And when a soldier dies on active duty, they have these processes, and the casualty assistance officer who gets assigned to the surviving family right away. And I have to say that they have been wonderful walking me through everything. And basically, I decided to move back here to Colorado Springs, which has been more like home. So they took care of the move, and then I came back here, and then I was more so with like family. I have a lot of Hungarian friends here who I now call family as well. And so, they helped out, and my family was here for all the memorials and everything. So it's been a long time now, almost like 15 years since then, but I am just now still processing these details because at first I wasn't even able to think about it or process it. So I want to say I spent the first 8 years in survival mode, where it was just about taking care of my baby. And now thinking back, I just don't even remember some of those times. So
It's amazing how stress, intense stress, will gift us that space of being able to make decisions, and then we tuck it away and we don't remember at all the people who were in those spaces, who were supportive, who were helping out. And we will have little glimpses of different pieces of the story, but to paintbrush the whole thing to say this is how it happened and to go all the way through can be very, very difficult, even years later. Audrey, you have continued to choose life for yourself. You've continued to choose not just closing up shop and sitting in a quiet place, but you have chosen also for your daughter to be somebody who is experiencing life, needing to travel the world as well. You have continued also to work in uh, event planning. Would you tell us a little bit about how all of these pieces have fit together, even with this incredible tragedy, how you have continued moving forward one foot in front of the next one?
yes. So when I say I've been in survival mode for about 8 years, I still started getting involved with this community around us, which now has been the military community and especially the surviving military families,
Yes.
families like us. Quickly, about a year in, that whole organizer, planner, of course, mindset was still with me. So I became that person who wanted to go to these events that were organized for these families. And then quickly I started volunteering at them. And then quickly I started helping and planning events specifically for surviving military families. First, we launched the chapter for Gold Star Gold Star Wives of America here in Colorado Springs. And then that started a lot of networking and community events for me. So this is something that really kept me going because it was something where I could help others and also fill my cup a little bit, because during this time I didn't even realize that I was in survival mode and I was just going, going, going.
Mhm.
But this got me through because I could still do things that I like, which is planning, being around people, helping others, organizing. So that was, the main focus during that time. And there are some wonderful people I met along the way, and a couple of people were Joe and Shelley Lewis, who are the couple who started Angels of America's Fallen, which is a nonprofit organization here in Colorado Springs, or they're headquartered here.
Mhm.
They help children of the fallen, military, and first responders. So
Mhm.
they invited my daughter into their then new program. This is over 10 years ago. But that started another wonderful opportunity for me, because since my daughter became one of the children that this then new organization supported, of course, I wanted to help them. And again, my specialty has always been events. So we launched a black tie fundraiser gala at the Broadmoor for Angels of America's Fallen, which has been a decade ago. And this basically became my passion that kept me going. But we started that event with like 100 guests, which then grew into now to over 700 people who go to this event annually. So this is the one event that kept me going the most for the past decade, I want to say.
Mm.
So my daughter has been supported in this beautiful community and organization. I wanted to help so that they can help more children, and they can raise more children or raise funds to have more children in the program. But Sarah, I didn't even realize it at the time that this entire thing was a huge part of my own healing. And I only realized that after I started healing, and when survival mode transferred into what I like to call my healing journey.
Mhm.
This entire event, the Angel Gala and Angels of America's Fallen, became this big circle moment for me.
And you have also been the keynote speaker at the Angel Gala. What an incredible honor to be able to be up on stage and sharing your story of hope, your story of, yes, surviving, but also this space afterwards of figuring out how to put one foot in front of the other to keep moving forward, with that intention of knowing that your daughter has this beautiful life ahead of her. And how can you help not just her, but also all these other children who have lost a parent? And so, in this space, then, there came a point where you were invited to go across the country, to go also do some more deeper healing. I would love to have you share a little bit about that, please, Audrey.
Yes, absolutely. That's such an important part of the story, Sarah, because as I said, I was just go, 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 kind of operating in this survival mode, which was really helpful when you do events or when you have to be organized. And, I really just kept it going on the professional side. But mentally and for my own self, I never really took care of myself. And I didn't realize that until about 5 to 6 years ago. There was just like a point in my life where it was just a point where I kept getting that message that I need help, but I started paying attention and listening. Whereas prior, it was just like, whatever, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. I realized that I'm not okay. I still wanted to prove it that, oh, probably I'm fine. Long story short, I hired a life coach at the time who was a friend. She also was in this Broadmoor community that I was very comfortable with. So I just asked her for coffee and I said, can you please help me? Like, I'm getting these messages of needing help, but I really don't feel like I need help. So I did a program with her that was called Courage to Change. And
Mhm.
sure enough, that was the huge turning point for me where I realized that not only this is true that I need help, but she helped me kind of moving forward that direction. There have
Mhm.
already been all these organizations and programs around us that are helping with surviving military families. Specifically in my situation, I'm in, unfortunately, in the suicide surviving military field. So it's very specific with the traumas that you experience and how you can help that. So I already knew about all these wonderful opportunities, and I would always send others who could benefit from these. And at that time, I was like, okay, maybe it's time for me to go. So it was a very humbling experience, but I accepted an invitation to a program that was in Boston.
Mm,
It was a group of military widows whose husbands or spouses died by suicide, like myself. And it was a very specific 2 week trauma treatment program that
mm,
they tailored. They actually started this for veterans. And from that program, they just launched this cohort where they invited the military spouses, the surviving spouses, to do a similar program for the trauma treatment, very specific to what had happened to us. And that
mhm,
was 2 weeks. I had to leave all the projects behind, and you were just plugged in and focused on this program, and everything they kind of lined up for our schedules, you just had to go with it. So prior to that, I would not sit still for a second, but in this program you had to do all this programming. There was yoga, there was the art for grief, there was all those slower things that I never took time for because I was so much like go go go, like I couldn't even sit still. Meditation, of course, other than working with other professionals. So
mm,
it really showed me that being present and slowing down a bit is very necessary for healing. So I did this program about almost 6 years ago now. It's coming to time. Yeah, 6 years ago. And also shortly after that, COVID hit. I'm just mentioning that because
mm.
that helped me in a way because everything slowed down.
Yeah.
All of the events were canceled. So I found myself in this space of finally slowing down and starting to just then process what I've been through and
Mhm,
understanding why my body and mind are in this weird responsive mode. And I was able to, that's where I count the beginning of my healing journey that is
mm.
still going ever since then, because I had the chance to work with different professionals in different fields, and it's just a very different experience.
I so appreciate that they began this for veterans and then realized that there was another need and that others were able to come and say, let's make sure that the spouses are getting the support that they need to have as well. Particularly because Clint was in active duty. And so that the military moved you across the country, that they have taken care of so many different parts of of you, of your family, of all the different pieces that come after loss like this. When you went to Boston, what were some of the things that you were feeling as you were on the plane? You were heading off. You'd said, "I need to, take some time out. I'm going to take this 2 weeks. It's going to be for me." And you leave, your friends and the Broadmoor and all of those things behind. All the activities that you've been doing that have been keeping you going. What were you feeling on the airplane as you were flying, knowing that you were going to this intensive for 2 weeks?
So, if I'm honest, I have to say I was so intimidated by this and had so many fears. It was just like very specific and very serious as to, like, you're going to do all this like therapy sessions now with the group and alone and all these other activities. The biggest piece for me is that I realized that I am now facing this, and I didn't know prior to this that everything I've been doing was just distraction. I was just like, I'm okay. I basically compartmentalized it in my head that this is what had happened. I even believed this, I call it a myth now, that time heals. That's absolutely the opposite. I feel like the longer I took before I started my healing, the worse, because I don't recommend that to anyone. It's now one of my biggest, messages. If I What I like to share is that the self-care and take care of yourself, don't wait this long, because I wish I didn't wait this long, but I frankly just didn't know and I wasn't aware. But there was a huge fear around this, that now I'm going and now I have to do this. But it's been a life-changing experience.
I think for me, one of the pieces when I have carved out time to do this kind of growth or a similar type of growth has been great. They've created the program, but will they see me as a person? My story is different than anybody else's story, and will they honor that? And as you were sharing what you were going through, that fear of going and having to do all these different things, that was what just presented itself for me. And to know that they are taking their training and they've created their training, they've created the curriculum for it based on what's worked for other people as well. And if it's going to work for other people, maybe it'll also work for you, for me, for the other people around. And so that was a interesting aha for me to kind of understand that and see that from things that I have been afraid to go and join or have gone reluctantly. I think maybe the word is I'm looking for. When you then have this new cohort, this new group that you have gone through this with, are you encouraged to keep up then with the people after that?
Yes, that is. I'm so glad you asked that, sir, because some of those women I already knew. Like I said, this was an organization, TAPS, they're called the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors. And so I've been in different programming with them already. And so some of the women who came, thankfully, I already knew. And then this became a very close knit group. We are still in touch. We have a closed group on social media. I have seen some of them since then in person. It's definitely been a life-changing experience, and we're still in touch. So, and also just being able to tell others, because this program is still ongoing, and since my time they expanded the program. Thankfully there is like
Good.
more funding. So
Good.
the program who, or the organization who does the actual trauma program, is called Home Base, headquartered out of Massachusetts in Boston. But since then, now they have different states where they operate out of. So there are more and more opportunities for more veterans, for more family members of veterans. And I love sharing that experience so that others will take, that chance and have the courage to go. And now I can look at these things so differently because, like I said, I've been sending people to these different support systems
Yes.
before, but
Yeah.
until you actually do it, like now it's a totally different mindset, and I
Mhm.
speak for it differently. And another element is also that ever since my husband passed away, so I've seen such a huge growth in the support, in the programming, especially around suicide loss, because unfortunately it's becoming a bigger and bigger problem. But then some of these resources have not been available back then, and now there is more and more. And I love advocating for these different groups and nonprofits and just help others, just realizing that yes, you have to go. It might sound scary or whatever, but it's not just the service members, but all of the family around them, even the children and everybody, their peers and battle buddies who carry all this pressure, and it's just such a, unfortunately, just an everybody in the community issue, that the mental
Right.
health and all of this help. So I love talking about it and encourage people to get help.
And you speak and encourage people with such eloquence. That space of being able to say, yes, I have been there. I have done this. I have gone through this. And yet I can see that you are in a place that this could be so incredibly helpful for you and to be reaching out. I think that that's one of the things that some of those top-notch groups in the military do such a good job of is you talk about battle buddies, of making sure that people are connected in with other people, that they are not just climbing the ladder to get to a position that has more stars or more power, but that they are there to work together to help each other to move forward. Audrey, you've talked a little bit about the Angel Gala. Would love for you to share what some of your vision is for this. You guys have been doing this for a number of years now. Is it 10 years at this point?
Yes, and we're coming up to our 11th event. And as you mentioned, I had the huge honor to speak at the 10th anniversary event, which was last April. And our goal is just, to slowly grow the event. This event is the celebration of the children of the fallen military and first responders, while we also hope to put the word out there and raise more funds, so get more supporters on board. But it's such a beautiful event because the children and families who are supported in the program, some of them come, opt in, and they come. And there's always a few families who are being showcased, and the kids perform in their chosen activities that Angels is supporting them with. Because the main idea is that these children can write their own stories of success. They can choose an activity that has a mentor or a coach. It could be
Yeah.
sport, arts, whatever they
Mhm.
choose. So, for example, my daughter used to be a dancer, and so on year 5, she performed and did a beautiful dance to honor her dad. So basically, our program is centered around showcasing the children, and then we also, of course, show the story of what had happened to the service member. But the idea is that these children will grow up to become healthy
Mhm.
and responsible and resilient adults. So that's the main idea. And what I learned, Sarah, is that there are so many ripple effects around this, because what I realized is that the program is not for just the children. It's for the families and for the parents too. I am a mother of a child in the program, right? But this whole community brought so much healing for me. And when I was
Mhm.
finally ready and asked for help, everybody was already planted and in place, and I could just go to people who I already knew. And then, of course, like a huge milestone was when I was able to, for the first time, I actually publicly spoke about my husband, and I was able to honor him at this 10th anniversary event. And that was such a healing experience for me. And,
Mhm.
just continue to do so that people who come, they know that these children are just wonderful, not just the children, all of the families. And it's just an event for the entire community, whether the sponsors, the guests, people who just volunteer. It touches everybody. And I just love the ripple effects that are around it all.
It's absolutely a story of intensity and story of hope and a story of encouragement, a story of let's do this together, a story of find answers and ask questions and know that the questions that you have are good questions to be asking. Audrey, I'd love for you to share a little bit about how you are choosing to raise your daughter. I know that you guys often will go back to Hungary to make. So, have you uh, taught her Hungarian? Have you chosen, is she bilingual? What are some of the things that you have seen as being important for you and for how you want her to grow up?
Yes, thank you for that question. She is bilingual, which is a huge blessing because I still have so many Hungarian people here locally around me. And
Mhm.
of course, we've been able to go back. I choose to go back every year, except for COVID. She's been back since a baby every
Mhm.
year, and she's turning 15, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Um, I just know that we have this bigger mindset about who knows that we might be in Europe one day. She might study there, or we can just go visit back and forth. But she definitely has a huge heart for different cultures, different people. On her that side of the family, she has a little bit of Japanese heritage that she loves, and European, and also a little bit of Black heritage. So my husband's family has like a diverse, beautiful variety of cultures as well. So my daughter loves the languages, loves the cultures, loves traveling. So definitely, with me being an event planner, I always say that that's a profession that I can do anywhere and everywhere. So actually, I don't
Yes.
know where life might take me. I'm very passionate about supporting the surviving military community and the veteran community here. But, this going back and forth between here and Europe is definitely in the picture. And I love that how my daughter is open for that as well. And so she also loves helping with events. So these days, now I'm also back to my original passion, which has always been weddings. I just had a limiting belief before I started healing, and I felt like that I couldn't do weddings as a widow, but that thankfully has been helped. And now through my own little boutique business, I do weddings, milestone celebrations, and also the angel gala and events that celebrate, the military communities, surviving families, or anything that has something to celebrate. That's my motto. We can find joy and something to celebrate
Yes.
even after or during very harsh times.
I love the title of your chapter, which is Widows Don't Plan Weddings. And it's such a catchy one, but it's also one that stops you and makes you think about what are the stereotypes that we do put on people who have um, labels by society, and yet we know them personally and they are not that label. And so it really got me to stop and think about that a little bit. Tell us a little bit about Luxe Love, the things that you are doing with that, the people who are the first person that you got to help plan a wedding.
Sure. So let's go back about 5 years ago after I did this trauma treatment program and started my healing journey. My life coach invited me to an event where I met Gary Barnes, who is a wonderful person who you had on your on one of your episodes as well. So I encourage the
Yes.
audience to watch that if they like. But
Thank you.
Gary was that person who had a conversation, a first conversation with me, and he questioned this because I said, "Well, I don't plan weddings. I just do these other events, and because but my passion used to be weddings." And he asked that question, "So why do you not plan weddings now?" And I said, "Well, because I'm a widow." And he's the one who helped me overcome that limiting belief, or who put that light bulb in my head. Oh, why not? I'm like, well, I don't know why not, because that's
Yeah.
just the thing. And so basically, after being at Gary's events, I got motivated to launch my own business for celebrations and wedding planning specifically. And when I launched it and people immediately came to me and wanted me to help them, Gary was the person who then I worked with as my business coach to help me establishing the business. So that has been a wonderful experience. And then my first client, so actually, I like to say I had two first clients because two ladies called me within just a few days, and both of them were military or prior military. So that has been just so special. And of course, both of them I knew through my circles, this community. So one of them, actually is still in the army. She's an army officer, a huge supporter of Gold Star families, and now the Angel Gala.
Yes.
But she was just doing training at the time, and she's like, Audrey, I really need help. I can't do this without you. So I was helping her.
Mm.
It was an amazing experience. The other girl, she herself is a surviving widow, but also a veteran herself. And I knew her through our surviving military family circles. And she was getting remarried, and she met somebody after her husband died, long years after. And she's like, Audrey, I got engaged, and I really, you are the only one I want to work with. And these are just so special for me because all these connections, it's either that I already have had the connection or somebody refers from within the circles. And then these ladies and these people become a part of my healing journey because of how they impact me and how they help me through the process till today. So it's just been amazing. And so my focus is quality over quantity. I want to be present in every one of these events for every one of these couples because I realized how this is like my healing at the same time. So it's been
Mhm.
amazing.
So, do you encourage destination weddings? Do you encourage them to be local? Are you looking at different church venues? Are you looking at in Colorado Springs? They have the huge chapel that I think is still under massive reconstruction. Um, what kind of things do you encourage people as they are thinking about getting married in terms of venues and places? What do you encourage there?
Well, my first recommendation certainly is the Broadmoor. It's I know we've been talking about them a lot, but it's been a part of my life for so many years, and I've assisted with so many weddings at the Broadmoor. So that's my absolute favorite venue. I always say if I could just have couples lined up who want to get married at the Broadmoor, I would be perfectly fine. But of course, life has given me other opportunities, and I never say no. So I love going to the Colorado Rocky Mountain destinations here to the mountains. So Aspen being, of course, a beautiful, wonderful venue. I go there often, visiting friends every year. So I like to work at venues and places that I already know, but
Yes.
I'm not opposed to, discovering new places. But like if I truly want to answer a question, then I love Broadmoor weddings and I love the Rocky Mountain weddings here. I have had couples from out of state who were getting married here. I love that when they are not able to come here, they choose Colorado or the mountains here as their destination wedding, and I can be their eyes and ears and set up
Mm.
everything. And I had couples who literally just came on the wedding weekend, and then everything, we did everything over video calls like this, and I just love that. But I certainly will work with everybody if it's a good fit and if they think that I'm the person for them.
So, Audrey, I just want to make sure that I heard you correctly that you planned an entire wedding through video, didn't meet them in person until the weekend of the wedding.
That is very correct. And this was a couple from North Carolina. And Sarah, every detail always there is a connection. Why from North Carolina, right? That's the only other place here in the States where I lived, and they were from that area. The connection came like this divine way. And uh,
Incredible.
it's just, we had video calls like this, and they picked to work with me. And yes, like I was in Aspen on top of the mountain. That's where they were getting married. And then, on a video call, showing them what everything looks like. It's been amazing. And I just met them and they flew in that weekend. I
And
love those.
so, did you help select flowers and photographer as well?
Yes. So with vendors, I usually make some recommendations if they don't know people here
Hmm.
in this area. If the couple already has, it happens that the couple already has somebody they're working with. But yes, there are options that if they choose to work with me on a bigger scale, then I will be a part of all those conversations and I won't make decisions for them, but I can narrow it down so that only to bring the final questions to them. And then I make all the background conversations, or I take those steps so that they don't have to spend that much time organizing everything. So, but it's been wonderful to see how, every process is different, every couple is different. Couples
Mm.
work with me when they already have all their vendors, and I just take care of like the final steps on that day or that weekend. So I like to say that I customize everything around the couple, because every event is different. So I don't like to put out these very set, I don't have any cookie cutter offerings. So everything rules around what the couple would like to do or accomplish.
I absolutely love that. Tell me a little bit about flowers. Are there certain flowers that you find that obviously each couple is going to have what they would like to have, but as you have done so many events through the years, what are some flowers that hold up well under heat, under you know the elements, even being cold? What are some of the hardier flowers that you've seen that have worked really well in bouquets?
So I definitely like to rely on our professionals. So I always get, the answers and the suggestions from the actual florists. I learned that each season, even each month,
Mm.
has its own selections of flowers that will, like you said, that will hold better or that are even more widely available. Sometimes a couple could come in, oh, I want XYZ color or this type of rose or whatever, and their wedding might not be when the season of that actual flower is. Actually, I learned that we have to give a little bit of flexibility. I trust the florist that
Yes.
the color, of course, and the vision, they will accomplish that, what the couple or the bride is asking for. But we have to trust them and give them a little bit of a bigger room, because there is also never a guarantee what's going to be available at the time. And then, of course, there are budgets around that as well. If somebody says, no matter what, go to the other end of the world to get this
Yes.
flower, and they're willing to pay for it, then there are ways. But usually the budget is set ahead of time,
Mhm.
it's just, I definitely love the wildflowers that some of the florists do up in Aspen, Steamboat Springs, Breckenridge, the mountains. It's just, what I learned is that I love those, just the
Yeah.
color palettes of those wildflowers and bringing those into weddings. But then I also love the very traditional, just the whites and roses and traditional elegant things. So it's really up to
Mm.
what the bride and the couple prefers. But I love seeing how everything comes to life that day when you're setting
Yes.
up for the
It's
event.
it's an orchestration. You're pulling all these different pieces together, and then it happens, and how absolutely incredible, including the cake, just all the different pieces. A friend of mine is a florist, and um, her niece was getting married, and they were doing something, a bridal shower just for the niece. And so they're all at this, beautiful, the mother of the niece has picked up this expensive cake, has done all the things that she's supposed to do with it, and brings it in. And my dear friend does her magic of putting the flowers on there. And as they're beginning to serve, they notice that the cake is beginning to go to one side and keeps going. And she just tells this hilarious story of how they were thankful that they gotten some pictures at the beginning, because there were no pictures to be had after it began to tilt. And she went even looking inside of it afterwards, the cake, to see if there was the stilts, the pieces were in there to hold it like it was supposed to. And those pieces were in place. But again, just that space and I had watched her that morning walk around the yard and just pick some different things out of the yard. She'd gone and obviously gotten things from the shop as well. But
Yeah.
just notice how she was taking and putting some pieces in that were from her own yard, and they're absolutely stunning. But it is just amazing how every single one of these experiences has its own stories to be able to tell afterwards. Audrey, I have loved this conversation where it's winded around and how you have talked about so many different pieces, your love for the Broadmoor, the experience of the Angel Gala, the support that that's creating financially for children of fallen to be able to have experiences that perhaps they would not have been able to have had otherwise. Are there some things that you would like to reiterate?
Thank you, Sarah. I just really would like to come back to the point where, it's really important to ask for help. I find it cliche until then you realize that you've been in this, not knowing, me talking about myself. If we are not aware that we need help, it's really hard to get to that point. So it's just the self care. Please take care of yourself, everybody, in any field, in any situation. And then once you're able to ask for help, because that was the hardest piece, is to ask for help. It's almost like such a big change in life, how all the pieces start coming together, because I still get to do events, which is my passion. But ever since I'm healing, and ever since I started asking help and I took care of myself, mentally and as a whole person, the whole person's well-being is so important. Now I look at my passion even differently. Now I experience my passion differently, and helping others is amazing. But now when I help others, it's just, I'm present, and it just means so much more to me. Whereas before, I was just on this, more like on this autopilot, if I may say that.
Mhm.
And then now life is just so much more meaningful, and all the connections, the relationships, the ripple effects of all of these things happening, and definitely being open to like new opportunities, and just, going for that. If I may, close this with my daughter's statement, because actually my daughter said this, that when you get the opportunity, you better go for it. Because if you're not going for it, you are just afraid of what's going to happen to you. She was 12 years old when she said this, and this message was for me. And so since
Mhm.
then, I carry this in my head. And yes, launch your business, do the experience, pick out the flowers, do the celebrations, because unfortunately, there are always going to be hard times, but we still have to find joy, celebrate, just ask for help. And you never know who you're going to just impact with your message, or even with a good word or a conversation. So that goes both ways. Supposedly, I've done it for a lot of people, and I love that. I appreciate it so much. But noticing how they have done that for me as well, and it's just a beautiful circle that way.
Mm. Audrey, thank you so much for your courage, for coming on and sharing your story, and for your encouragement to other people as well. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah.
And to our audience, we say thank you so much for being here, for listening to the very end. We are so grateful for you. And until next time, take good care of you.